Hey, in this video we have 2 hours to paint a realistic and gritty image from scratch. My name is Victor, I'm a concept artist, I work for film and games, and I'm really excited to show you guys the final result. So, let's start! Alright, first thing, let's get rid of the white canvas. I usually put down some warm reddish underpainting. This will make things easier when working with values. And just with a very simple line work sketch, I'm putting down roughly the whole composition, my whole idea as I'm seeing it on paper. Now this one is really simple because I'm going for this dense forest in the background, so just a couple of marks for the trees will do just fine. And now for our samurai character, I grabbed a chunky brush with opacity settings, so the harder you press, the more opaque the brush stroke will be. Started to define the drawing and the values a little bit at the same time, because the silhouette is really important in this case, and actually in all the other cases too. And for the scale, of course, I wasn't 100% sure how big I want him to be, maybe not so big after all, because the image is more about this dark and moody forest that we see in front, so scaling and adjusting until I think it's in a good place. Usually I'm very loose with the brush strokes at this point. I know that very well might happen that it will change the composition later on. I'm just gonna place a few more details for the silhouette until it works and start thinking about the mood and the overall lighting in the scene. So we will start with very broad brush strokes and make sure that we're working on the big picture first, and we're moving from big objects and big brush strokes to smaller marks. Usually grabbing a texture brush and I'm increasing the size till it's relatively large. I'm starting to glaze the canvas with what I think is a good base for our forest. At first, you don't have to commit to your final value. Just starting from the mid-range and getting a feel for the values, you can push and pull the darks, the lights until you get the depth that you want. Okay, so for now you want to block in all the main shapes, the trees, the ground, grass, and so on. And because the idea in my head was quite clear, I can push the darks in the background quite early, since I know that I want to portray a gloomy and dark forest in that area. You can place a few rows of trees, some of them may be lighter because we want to create some sort of layering and a little bit of depth, so the light is going to hit the trees in front, the ones in the background will be darker, so you can already plan ahead when you know this stuff. Alright, it's time to describe the ground a little bit, and I'm thinking that the light will hit this plane of grass the most, and then a bit of the lower side of the trees. So again, with a textured brush, I'm placing the lighter greens on the ground. I'm still not very committed in terms of value, so the lightest light is still not on the painting, and I'm somewhere in the mid-range just getting a feel for the overall values. The simple tree trunks right now are kind of boring, just extending like they are till the top, so would definitely look better if you can frame them with some foliage most likely. So again, just a few brush strokes to define the overall shape of the foliage, and you really want to keep it simple and flat. No need for details and lots of contrast right now, especially on the top of the frame where you don't want the focal point to be. We also want to address the values of the trees as well, so definitely darker around the top. We want to keep that area overall calmer and without too much contrast. I'm going to focus my attention on this particular tree trunk and the area around it, and we'll try to add some form, basically sculpt this area much better, starting to work with smaller brush strokes as well, trying to understand how the light is going to hit this object. Oh, and I wanted to paint something in this setting after playing the game Ghost of Tsushima. It has some really nice lighting and mood in the game. And it's not because of the beefy graphics with like high fidelity, but instead just great art direction, really cool landscapes, atmosphere, and dramatic lighting. So the artists there did a great job getting this minimalistic but very like bold visuals, so really cool. In this process, it's really important to be deliberate with your actions and always think and assess, is the next brushstroke that I'm gonna place, is it making the painting better? So it's all about painting carefully and thus achieving a better result faster. Oftentimes this is one of the biggest misconceptions, especially when people hear the term speed painting. A lot of people think that it's all about placing your brush strokes fast and being able to pack as much information as fast as possible. And unfortunately this is fundamentally wrong. By rushing the painting process, usually what happens is you make more mistakes, painting becomes messy and overworked, you cannot control the values and the edges as well. Oftentimes I catch myself placing a lot of brush strokes in one spot and quite fast, and usually it's in the areas that I don't know how to solve at the moment. The best way out of it is to move to another area of the painting, continue, and then get back. But hey, I really want to know what's your approach when painting. Do you like being very slow and methodical, place a couple of brush strokes, and if they don't look like, then undo until it looks good? Or do you like to be faster and rush to the end result as you imagine it in your head as fast as possible? By the way, in the description there is a link to a free brush pack with some of my most used brushes, so feel free to grab them. I will spend just a couple of minutes on detailing the focal points, and then we can talk about the character and how to finalize and polish the whole thing. We spent some time on the environment and not a lot of attention was given to our character. The main goal is to improve the design and describe the form better, as well as just to make him fit our environment better. So through lighting and pose. And by the way his legs are right now definitely needs fixing, and I will do that soon. But for now I'm just putting it a little bit of color information, some details, and rounding up some forms, showing where the shadows are and all that stuff. Of course, in order to be more consistent and have a better result, just don't forget to grab your reference images, find some samurai armor from, feudal times of Japan. It will definitely serve you well. So I'm still wandering around within the painting. I'm not stuck in one spot. I'm placing some details here and there. I just always keep in mind my focal point. I'm looking at our samurai, and I wanted to create like this contrast between the silhouette character creates and the background. So that part I really wanted to be readable. I have a few other spots on the image that I also want to have some contrast to them, like these roots of the trees. I kind of spend a little bit more time to describe them, to make them a little bit more consistent. And now this part is really cool because I wanted to add a little bit of a mood to our image and to make things a bit more exciting. With a softer but still textured brush stroke, I decided to add a little bit of atmosphere, so some sort of fog that is creeping in the background, and you can also see it in the foreground a little bit. This will definitely add an air of mystery and kind of an unsafe situation for our character. So it's really time to fix those legs because it just wasn't standing right, kind of blocking in and trying to see if there are other ways I can place him in the scene. And I think this one actually might work. It looks quite balanced, so I think we'll go with this one. I'm still adjusting the lower part just to make sure that he's not gonna fall over. I'm thinking that area with the tree might deserve a bit more information, so I'm trying to introduce some color variation, maybe a few brush strokes to just show what kind of grass is there and how those roots are sticking out. Alright, and here's the final result. I also added these characters in the background, but I really wanted them to be super subtle, so you wouldn't even notice them just by the shining highlights of their swords. I wanted to show that they're like sort of like some bandits, maybe hidden in the woods, and you can only see them emerging as our character is approaching the dense forest. Thank you so much for watching till the end. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, it helps a lot, and I hope to see you in the next one coming soon.